Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of the Miller Sports Podcast coming at you live from Burn City Sports headquarters as my podcast is affiliated with Burn City Sports. I am your host, Franklin Miller, and today for this episode of my podcast, we will be talking about the first half of the Suns season, what went right, what went wrong, key notes from Kevin Durant's presser, which I was at a couple days back on Thursday, and what to look forward to into the second half of the season. I just wanted to kind of just take a trip back memory lane and kind of just, discuss the variables of how this year's team went in terms of, the first half of the season, because we're going to have a completely different team after the All-Star break, which is something to be excited about and something that, we might need to discuss a little bit more into detail of what this group can do to in hopes go around and win a championship. So first, I'll start with what took place in the first half of the season. So the Suns actually were still had a playoff caliber team. They had Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, as everybody knew, and I thought for the most part the team was really, really good. I think they would be right there with Memphis, if I'm being honest, if they had stayed healthy. And I think that's the key thing in all of this. I think health really disrupted the flow of this team in spurts this season. I think that it was tough sledding, especially in the month of December or mid December to early January or mid January, actually, was a tough task for this team when you had Cam Johnson go out early November, and then you had Devin Booker get hurt on Christmas Day, and then you had Chris Paul in and out of the lineup. It was tough, and maybe it was a blessing for what was to come in the future, for both Brooklyn and Phoenix. But you can't help but to believe that this Phoenix Suns team would be better than where they're at from the fifth seed. Now, that's not to take away from where this team can be headed to, which I'll allude to in a little bit later. But one of the key things that I feel like the Suns did a pretty darn good job at was defense. I think they've, for the most part, were a top 10 defense all throughout the first half of the season. I thought they were good on the perimeter. I thought rebounding wise could have been a little bit better from getting guys like Josh Okogie and Torrey Craig to crash the boards, Jock Landell and DeAndre Ayton. I feel like the team did just enough to balance out a good rim protection and a good overall defense. I thought Biz was phenomenal off the glass in terms of blocks, one of the best blockers in the league. I thought that everything defensively was great for the Suns, and it fed into their offense for the most part of this past season, which was fantastic. And I believe that's a sign for more things to come, even with the departure of Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson, which is what I'll talk about a little later as well. I believe, to continue on with the first half of the season, we were starting to see the rise of Mikal Bridges, which is why it makes it a little sad for what I'm about to, talk about a little later. But I thought he was playing fantastic basketball, with some of his best basketball we've seen. He was just getting to his spots. He was starting to play the Devin Booker role really, really well. He was starting to take that next step into his development. I thought Cam Johnson was slowly starting to get his knees right after that right torn meniscus that he suffered against Portland on November 5th. I thought he had up and down games, but I thought defensively it's been his best season. I think that's been lost in the shuffle of how good Cam Johnson is defensively and how much the Suns will miss that. But overall, I thought the team as a whole was really good. Just unfortunately suffered a lot of injuries. Now the question is, would that same team have won a championship? We shall see, depending on how things go the rest of this season. But from what appears to be the case of what we kind of witnessed last year, I can understand the reasoning why James Jones had to make the decision that he had to make, and not to mention in the first half of the season, Matt Ishbia, the new owner. I thought he came in with a lot of fire, a lot of moxie, a lot of confidence. and a lot of love for this Phoenix fan base, and it's a new, warm, welcoming sight. I know a lot of people have been on the down and out about Robert Sarver and how he's handled things here in Phoenix for the last decade plus. But it's a new sight for sore eyes here when in Phoenix with Matt Ishbia, and right away did he make a splash. Like literally the day he got announced as officially the new owner, he went to work with James Jones, and they ended up landing one of the greatest players to ever touch a basketball, as Devin Booker has said on numerous occasions since he's been here, and Kevin Durant. So now let's get to the Kevin Durant saga of all this. I think KD coming here is a great thing for this fan base. I said it a couple weeks back on the Burn City podcast, but I gave it a B plus. I thought I thought losing Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson hurts a little bit, but in terms of this year with the team that the Suns have now, I think it works well for the way that they're orchestrated. I think you have a great facilitator for a great mid-range scorer and a great and an above average defender in the perimeter with Chris Paul, despite his age. I think you have a terrific all around scoring threat with Devin Booker, who is amazing. I believe that you have a very well improved Josh Kogi, who's ready to take that next step if he were to start alongside Kevin Durant, who's already in terms of Josh Okogie, is an all-around defender in his own rights, is really great off the glass, getting rebounds, offensive rebounds, defensive rebounds. Good shot blocker as well. Great with steals, just all-around great defender. I think Torrey Craig is an underrated rim protector who does a great job of getting second chance points for his team, and a good and above average 3-point shooter in spot up situations at the corner, especially, is his best spot. Then you also have DeAndre Ayton, who's been really, really good over this past week, who has been having a really, down year defensively speaking, but has overall been really, really good, offensively during the stretch run where he's been averaging over 21 points a game and over 10 rebounds a game. So it's been great. And not to mention, they also added TJ Warren. They also added um, Terrence Ross, who just got bought out from Orlando. And now the Phoenix Suns have to figure out what they're going to do with Ish Wainwright. His two-way contract is up. Are they going to keep him? Are they going to let him walk? Are they going to go somewhere else in the buyout market? Maybe a guy like Kevin Love, maybe a guy like Serge Ibaka. I've heard that the Suns are interested in Kevin Love. I believe that could be a good a good threat off the bench, especially for a guy that can shoot threes, off the bench for you and grab boards for you when you need to. But I think overall, with the way the team's orchestrated, the Suns are ready to go on a run here with Kevin Durant. And when you have a elite all around player like Kevin Durant, who, in my opinion, is one of the most underrated defenders in this league, even at his age. I think a lot can happen with this team and how far they can go. And especially when you got a guy like Devin Booker who's been ready to take that next step. I think things are going to be going well here in the Valley. In terms of Mikal Bridges, it sucks to see him go because he was really progressing well. He just dropped 45 in a win for Brooklyn not too long ago, which was amazing. Absolutely amazing. Great all around player. He's gonna be missed. But he's gonna be taking that next step in Brooklyn. He's gonna be a star player for them, no doubt in my mind. So is Cam Johnson, who's already a great 3-point shooter. They helped change the culture here in Phoenix, and it really sucks to see them go. But from the business side of things, it's always that tough task where you're trying to do what you can to help win a championship. And like Mikal Bridges said, he maybe might have even traded himself for Kevin Durant. And that's a maybe because you know how competitors are. But yeah, it's tough. But I wish them nothing but the best. In my time seeing them, I didn't really, get a chance to see them too much. But from what I have seen of them and heard of them, they're really great people. They're really great in the community. I know Brooklyn's getting two great young men who are gonna just continue to lead that charge over there in Brooklyn. And Brooklyn's a fifth seed, and in my opinion, Brooklyn, which is why I also give them a B for that trade, as I think they have a really good young core. I wish Brooklyn's head coach Vaughn would start Cam Thomas alongside Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson. In my opinion, my starting lineup would be Ben Simmons, and I know that's going to be a little bit of what are you talking about, but I would start Ben Simmons at the 1, and I would play Cam Thomas at the 2, Mikal Bridges at the 3, Cam Johnson at the 4, and Nick Claxton at the 5. I have Dinwiddie and Finney Smith come off the bench, and when you have Seth Curry back to pair along with Joe Harris, that is a really deep shooting bench rotation right there, and that's a sight for sore eyes. That I believe that Brooklyn could take that next step into relevance, and they have all these draft picks now and people that they can maybe get to come there in free agency. I think they're building something special, but we shall see as they continue to own in on their team as well. One thing I want to talk about with the Phoenix Suns, and with this new look bench, we kind of saw it a little bit in LA, and Monty Williams alluded to it during his presser. I felt like I agreed with Monty Williams from the standpoint of they just played they just played a little too many people. I didn't think they had a flow because they obviously lost to the LA Clippers on Thursday, 116 to 107, which it's okay going into the All-Star break. They went 11-4. They're playing great basketball. You have nights like that, but there's little things that they got to clean up, and there's obviously little things that Monty Williams has to really, really hone in on from how he wants to approach this bench rotation. I think it's really key, especially for a team that's really trying to win a championship. You got to figure out how you're going to play which player with which player. And I feel like TJ Warren only getting 8 minutes, Damian Lee not getting enough time. I just thought that the flow of the rotation wasn't quite there. And that's not to mention that they didn't have a good third quarter. They gave up 37 points defensively. In the third quarter, which was tough. But I feel like there's some things that they just got to clean up. And it starts with really figuring out and honing in on who's going to be coming off the bench. It'll help getting when they get Cameron Payne back. It'll help when they get Kevin Durant back. Hopefully Friday. I don't know. We shall see. All sides are pointing to it, but I digest, but anyway, my point is they just gotta Monty Williams just gotta really, really hone in on what kind of rotation he wants to play. Obviously, my opinion, I think they're probably gonna, have Terrence Ross still be that 6-man guy for them. You're gonna have Cameron Payne as well come in for Chris Paul. You're gonna have TJ Warren come in. I think you're going to have to decide between Josh Okogie or Torrey Craig who you're going to start. If it is Josh Okogie, you have Torrey Craig come in that 4th spot, and then you'll have a guy like Biz be that defensive anchor. And I think that's fantastic, for that to be the case for Phoenix going into down the stretch, and to see how that bodes well, especially going into the playoffs. But I think they have more than enough pieces to get this thing rolling and to create something special here for this season. To get over the hump and open Western Conference. It's not really looking too great for John Morant's comment saying I'm fine in the West, because the West is looking really, really scary after that trade deadline. But moving on to even more stuff with Kevin Durant, his press conference was also the day that the Suns lost the Clippers on Thursday. I was there, and it was an electric atmosphere. There was a lot of fans. It was like an event almost. There's fans everywhere. Kept cheering every time he talked, kept cheering every time he talked, or every time he walked, or said anything, even when he took a drink of water. But that's how hungry this fan base is for a championship. So I understand the excitement when Kevin Durant is present in the minds of others. And it's gonna be exciting times. There's a lot of key things I think that was taking place. And I even wrote an article about it this past Thursday, as Kevin Durant believes the Suns have the pieces to win an NBA championship. And a lot of things he alluded to in this article was really that I put down was really, really key. I think a lot of the things that he really talked about was his excitement to play with Devin Booker, um, how much he respects Monty Williams and James Jones. He even said it to himself that he believes that this is not his team. This is Monty Williams, this is James Jones' team, and that he's just following suit. one of the quotes he said was, "Yeah, I think we got all the pieces to be successful. We got guys that are experienced what it's like to play in that final round. We got a champion already that's overseeing us, in which case he's talking about James Jones. Monty's a champion as a coach, so we got guys that's been there, and that's half the battle, just knowing what it takes." And yeah, he's right. James Jones was a champion with Cleveland when he was a player with LeBron James and Kevin Love. Wink, wink, depending on what they're, I digest. I'm just kidding. But they have that. They also have Monty Williams, who's a champion coach. With Greg Popovich, and he's learned a lot from him. And he's also used to coach Kevin Durant as an assistant when his time in OKC. So a lot of familiarity, and I think a lot of the things that continue to be honed in on, especially in this article, was Durant's excitement for Devin Booker. That was something that really drew Kevin Durant to Phoenix, was playing with Devin Booker, and that's something that's been amazing because there was also um, a, a report where that the Suns were going to try and do everything they can to get Kyrie Irving to Phoenix, and just hearing all these different names of people that are want to get traded or want to come to Phoenix, it just speaks well for how much people appreciate Devin Booker. For whatever reason, man, this guy continues to be underrated in the NBA landscape in terms of all around players. In my opinion, he's the best two guard in the league. It's not a debate. But that's just my opinion. Uh, I think Donovan Mitchell and James Harden are 2 and 3. But I think Devin Booker, I do believe he could get better on the defensive end, just a tad bit better. But I think he has shown improvements there, and has been able to do a better job of like getting over screens and everything like that. But if he can hone in on that more, I think it bodes well for him. But as an all around scorer, man, especially as a mid range arsonist, or Arsenal. Like he's different. He's different, and it still sucks that he didn't make the All-Star game. But hopefully he's going for bigger and better things this year, which is an NBA championship. But even going back to Kevin Durant, that's one of the reasons why he wanted to come here. And one thing that he said that I was even that got me excited really was how much he sees similarities in both their games, about how they both get to the right spots, about how they both utilize different parts of the floor to attack, how they both go into screens, just everything in general of just how of what they do to be that team that can hone in on and hopefully win a championship. And at the end of the day, I think this bodes well for a guy like Chris Paul. Chris Paul is a guy that can continue to be that great facilitator of the basketball, that can also continuously be a person that can continuously be a defensive anchor for Devin Booker as well. And I think that Chris Paul isn't going to be asked to do a whole lot of scoring, and that's going to be great. But when there's times that he gets the attack in the mid range, it's going to be great because Chris Paul and Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, excuse me, are going to really utilize the attacks that these defenses are going to throw at them. So I think it's just going to be terrific. But that was one key thing that took from that from why Kevin Durant believes the Suns have the pieces to win an NBA championship. And I think this is something that could be special for the next couple seasons, maybe 3 seasons. And it's something that Phoenix Suns fans should be excited about. I know there already are, and it's going to continue to be smooth, or not. It's not going to be smooth sailing. There's going to be a lot of kinks in there. It's going to be a lot of, oh man, I'm nervous because they might lose some games that they should win. They might win some games that you're thinking, whoa, they shouldn't win. But that's all part of the roller coaster of an NBA season, and how great of a team this can they have the potential to be. Just to wrap it up, I just want to allude to what to expect for the second half of the season. I'm expecting fireworks. I'm expecting fireworks. I'm expecting Kevin Durant to continue to be his great self. It's gonna be amazing as a basketball nerd. It's gonna be so amazing to see how Devin Booker and Kevin Durant play alongside each other. But the one thing outside of that I'm looking forward to is how Monty Williams is going to utilize his bench, because that's the importance of how you become a championship level team. And I believe Monty Williams is that good of a coach that he's going to figure it out. I can't wait to get Cameron Payne back. I think him with Terrence Ross is going to be amazing off the bench, and TJ Warren. I think they're going to still have to spell some minutes for Damian Lee, who's a really good 3-point shooter, and that's shown that he's capable of being a guy that you can rely on in clutch situations. I think it's just overall very good and a lot to be excited about if you're a Phoenix Suns fan. And it's just going to be an amazing thing to watch. I don't know what their record is going to be, but I do know that they're going to be at least a top 5 team in the West if they stay healthy. And that's the knock on wood if they stay healthy. But I, but as I say again, I digest. We shall see. But that will do it for this episode of the Miller Sports Podcast. Tune in every day as I will have a podcast episode up every single day except for Monday, unless there is breaking news happening. As always, I'm your host, Franklin Miller, and have a great All-Star break, everybody, and go Suns.